Welcome to this week's edition of Coach Prep. Coach Don and I are here in the Cherokee Batting Range podcast studio getting ready to record episode number 201. Got a really interesting topic today. We're going to talk about travel ball seasons and how the different seasons all start anew, but we've got to make sure that we understand what that means for us as we get ready to crank it back up. Before we do that, though, let's talk about the Anderson Bat Company.
Everything Fast Pitch is very proud to have Anderson Bat Company as our presenting sponsor. Anderson Bat Company is using the latest and greatest bat technology to corner the market in the fast pitch world. They have the -9 Rocket Tech, the -10 Carbon, and the -11 Carbon Light. Anderson Bat Company is using this technology to put a high-performing bat in the hands of hitters that really know the difference between a good bat and a great bat. We're also working with Anderson to provide a discount for all of our listeners. Go to the Anderson Bat Company website and order your bats. Use the EFP20 discount, which is for everything fast pitch, and you'll get a 20% discount.
And again, take advantage of that EFP20 discount. It's a great way for you to save that additional 20% on something that's already very affordable and very high quality. Also, let's think about becoming a patron. If you can go to patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. Coach Don and I desperately need a few more of you to come on board. We are so close to breaking even, I can taste it. If we can get 5 or 6 more people to come on board, we can actually have a podcast that breaks even every month instead of us coming out of pocket every month. And that would be a super feeling to know for sure that, once we get to that point, then we don't have to have the discussions anymore. Well, how much longer are we going to do this? How much more are we going to invest? How much more am I putting on my credit card before I got to say the heck with it? It's just not worth it anymore. And we want to get to that point. And the only way it's going to get there is if we get a few more of you to come on board. So patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. So Don, we're in that weird time of the year here in Georgia. School ball is cranking up. Travel ball is wrapping up. I wanted to talk more to the travel ball idea today because one of the things that, depending upon your age group and where the kids that you're coaching are coming from in relationship to where they're at for the school ball schedule, some teams are starting their new season like very, very quickly. But whenever we start a new season, whenever that is, from a coaching perspective, we have to understand that all the players are starting from different points. They're all kind of at different levels of preparation. Some kids might have, just come off of playing in the state championship in Columbus yesterday, and now they're playing with you and your travel ball team this next day or next weekend. And other kids might not have, been playing or practicing for a month.
Because they've been complete.
Right. Yeah. Or you have other kids that just finished playing with your team last season, and they know all your ins and outs, your plays, your coverages, your responsibilities, but you have 3 or 4 new kids coming in and they don't know any of that stuff.
I was going to say, and they may have been just rock stars on rec teams,
right,
that have wanted to step it up to travel,
or on different teams that do things really differently than you do them. And so the one thing that the experience tells us, that when we're looking at this game, there's some things that a lot of us think there's a right way to do them. But there's a lot of people that have that same opinion about a lot of different ways of doing pretty much the same thing. So when we talk about relays or rundowns or cutoffs or bunt coverages or whatever, just assuming that players that are new to your team or just, cranking it back up again are all on the same page or all ready to do the same things is a really big trap. And we want to make sure that we're all understanding that every time we start anew, we have to start anew.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the idea that we wanted to share with our coaches today, is to be realistic about where the kids are at that you're working with, but to make sure that you're adjusting your perspective, your outlook on it, to make sure that you're teaching the things that you should be teaching and coaching the things that need to be worked on.
And just let it be a thing that's comfortable for all levels, I guess, at that point, right?
Yeah, well, comfort would be a good thing, but the most important thing to me is making
sure
for
injury and
right,
yeah,
and also just from a team success perspective. I think every new season probably needs to start off with, some sort of a check-in to make sure that you know where everybody's at. Some sort of basic fundamental stuff
like
that we're
eval.
doing, right? To see, what we need to really focus on. If we're playing games next weekend and we've got new faces on our team, and this is the only practice we're going to have, well, how much can you really accomplish in a practice or two, and how much is going to really pay off that quickly? And
how familiar are we with
right,
each of these kids?
And instead of trying to teach a couple of new players 10 new things by next weekend, maybe we need to start off with the 2 most important things and make sure they're good at that. And if they don't know any of the other stuff, well, they'll figure that out later, kind of attitude. But from a coaching perspective, we have to be the ones that are kind of putting all this in order and thinking about what we're going to do to make the most out of it.
No, and just being organized like that, I think Tori is going to be impressive for the group and give them a little bit of excitement that, they're a part of a program that's thoughtful that way.
Right. Well, and one of the dumbest things that we do as coaches too is even if you have the whole team back, let's say, you finished up in August with your travel team. They all went to play school ball for 2 or 3 months. You get them back in November. You have a couple of practices. Maybe you go to a showcase. That even in that 3 months that they were gone playing school ball, that they're all just going to jump right back in that very first day back and remember everything and be able to do everything that they were doing at the end of last season.
All having been part of a different program.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's just say cutoffs for a perfect example. So you've always used the first baseman as your cutoff for throws to the plate. Well, her high school coach uses the pitcher.
Right.
Okay. So that first baseman that was always the cutoff person for you has now spent the last 3 months being the backup person for somebody else. And it'd be nice to think that just like that, they can flip the switch and remember what they're supposed to be doing. But the muscle memory of doing something different for a month or 2 or 3 is not going to just disappear. So we have to, refresh and review and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so now you got a picture, you have a brand new first baseman that wasn't on your team last year, and her high school coach does something different. Her last travel ball coach did something different than her high school coach was doing and different than what you're doing. And now you're going to bring her in and, just fit her into the system and hope that she knows, after a quick explanation that she's going to do this your way when she's used to doing it 2 other ways in very recent history. And so this whole idea of checking in, making sure we're aware of what our kids are capable of doing, where they're at, and reviewing and refreshing and making sure that the most important things are covered really well early on, I think is a really important thing that coaches have to keep in mind.
Cutoffs, pop-ups, rundowns.
Yep. Communication. I've railed about this so many times on the podcast that, words cannot describe, we talked about that. The coaches that are mad on game day because their team screws up a rundown, or, the throw that's going home that the girl would have been out by 25 feet, but the cutoff person cuts it by, mistake and we missed that chance. Like, well, we talked about that. We've talked about that before. We've talked about that a lot. Talking about it and practicing it are 2 really different things. Now, talking about it's better than nothing, but it's only a little bit better than nothing.
And then add the pressure and the excitement.
Right, and all that other stuff. And then, of course, her school ball coach did it one way, and her old travel ball coach did it someplace else in a different way. And, of course, her mom or dad are probably telling her, well, back in my day, we used to do it this other way. And so, they got an awful lot of snakes and stuff swimming around in their head when it comes to this stuff. And we got to make sure that we clear that out for them and make it as unified and as simplified as possible.
So my thought, Tori, is for us to have the very best start with our new group is to make sure that we've covered a few of these basic things just to refresh and create some consistency for everybody, right?
Yeah, and then keep adding them in. And so
then keep nibbling at it as you go.
Yeah, and if you have to pick, let's just one really important thing, make sure you practice it for that first tournament. So if you do rundowns differently than other people, let's make sure we go over that. If you do, bunt coverage is different, or however you're doing bunt coverages, let's make sure we cover that. And again,
not just go take ground balls.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, because the reason that it's so important is nothing sidetracks a team faster than looking stupid. And nothing makes us look stupid faster than screwing up a rundown, screwing up a cutoff, not backing up a play, those kind of fundamental things because they stand out so badly when we do them badly. And so we got to make sure that if we want our team to develop and start to gain confidence, we got to make sure we're doing those things first. If we can get down to the things that we do that negatively affect our performance are little physical things that everybody does once in a while, that's great. But when we're out there, with everybody screaming at us because we screwed up a rundown or we cut that ball off and the girl would have been out by 25 feet, those kinds of things can really sidetrack a team early on.
Disheartening.
And some teams don't ever really recover from it.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, and those things, Tori, you're talking about are not grinding things. These are things that we can cover and not wear out or beat up or, someone coming freshly off of a previous season.
Right.
So these are good things.
And again, because coaches, think about it. If your shortstop just got done playing she's been taking ground balls for months. She doesn't need to come to your practice and take 25 more ground balls to be ready to field a ground ball. But if you're going to do something with cutoffs or relays or rundowns or whatever that's different, that's what we need to invest in. And that's the trap, again, that we all fall into, because it's fun to hit infield.
Sure.
And it's really fun to hit infield and watch your kids that are pretty good at it do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's no fun at all to work on something like rundowns or cutoffs or first and thirds, because
two people watch a pop-up drop on the ground.
Because those things are the ones that we have to really grind through to make sure that we get good at them. And if we don't go for the grind, which a lot of us would much rather just do the fun stuff, the fun stuff's going to get us embarrassed on game days. So
cool.
So that's going to wrap up 201. Make sure you support Anderson Bat and patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. Please become a patron if you can. Make sure you reach out to us at everythingfastpitch@gmail.com or fastpitchprep@gmail.com with questions, ideas, or suggestions. And make sure you go to the fastpitchprep.com website, order your Square Cuts training discs, and take advantage of the blogs and the YouTube channel. So for Coach Don McKinley and our producer Stan Lewis, this is Coach Torrey saying thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next week.